It's time for another WrestlePlanet news update as the main event of Wrestle Kingdom 16 has been confirmed. We have an update on the Samuray Del Sol backstage heat following his Brodie Lee related tweet. And is a major UFC star set to jump to professional wrestling following his UFC 268 loss? All that and more coming up in today's video, but first... AEW broadcaster and part-time wrestler Paul White spoke with Inside the Ropes magazine this week, where he discussed a potential showdown with an NBA legend. During his time in WWE as The Big Show, White came close to battling Shaquille O'Neal, although the match always fell through for one reason or the other. White would reveal why the match didn't take place, and he said, "It got very close to happening. I think we dropped the ball a little bit on communication. Shaq's a real busy dude, he's got a lot going on, a lot of brands. I think the biggest thing was aligning WWE and Shaq for what WWE's vision was of the match they wanted us to have." Paul would go on to discuss the likelihood of a match with Shaq in All Elite Wrestling now that they have both wrestled inside an AEW ring in recent times. White feels that the match is much more likely now, and he said, "I think with AEW we don't have as much red tape. I mean, Shaq's already competed in AEW. I think this is an opportunity for us to have a spectacle match and have some fun with it. Honestly, I think it's closer to happening than it's ever been." So now the big problem with all the pressure that everybody wants to see this, it better be really damn good. If not, I better burn my boots, move to Tibet and become a monk or something. I mean, I've already shaved my head. Whilst it's unclear if AEW themselves have any intention on booking the match, it seems both men would be up for it. But what do you think? Do you care for Shaq versus Paul White in AEW? Let me know in the comments down below. Last year, WWE would announce a deal with Netflix to produce a documentary on the life of Chairman Vince McMahon in a move that was described as groundbreaking. It seems the 4-part series is well into production, with WWE President Nick Khan providing an update during the WWE Q3 earnings call this week, with Khan saying, "We have seen early cuts of our upcoming Vince McMahon multi-part Netflix documentary, which is executive produced by WWE and Bill Simmons, who did the acclaimed Andre the Giant documentary with us. The Vince cuts are out of this world amazing. Wait until you see it." The docuseries is said to be one of the highest budgeted documentaries in Netflix history, with still no word on when the release date will be. Last night, New Japan Pro-Wrestling held their Power Struggle event from Osaka, Japan, with the show seeing 4 titles on the line, with 3 of them changing hands. The first title change came when House of Torture, the team of Sho, Yujiro Takahashi, and Evil dethroned the never openweight 6-man tag team champions Yoshihashi, Tomohiro Ishii, and Hiroki Goto of Chaos. El Desperado would later defeat IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion Robbie Eagles to begin his second reign with the belt. Kenta would also be in action when he would score a huge victory over the ace Hiroshi Tanahashi, securing his long-awaited first reign as IWGP United States Champion. He is now the second ever Japanese holder of the title. Then finally, in the main event of the show, IWGP World Heavyweight Champion Shingo Takagi defeated Zack Sabre Jr. to retain his belt against the Technical Master. And speaking of New Japan Pro Wrestling, the main event of the upcoming Wrestle Kingdom seems to have been revealed following the main event of last night's Power Struggle event. After Shingo Takagi's successful IWGP World Heavyweight title defense against Zack Sabre Jr., the champion would be confronted by the winner of this year's G1 Climax, Kazuchika Okada. Earlier in the show, Okada would retain what he is calling the G1 Championship against Tama Tonga, which is the old IWGP Heavyweight belt. The holder of this reserves the right to challenge the World Heavyweight Champion at New Japan's biggest event in January. Okada would tell Takagi, "From here on out, it's time for the G1 Champion to take over from the World Champion and carry this company. This belt is my contract, the G1 Champion. The IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, who's the real deal? Let's find out." Takagi would then respond by challenging Okada to a match on January 4th in the Tokyo Dome, before Okada accepted the offer before making his way to the back. Wrestle Kingdom 16 is set to take place over 3 nights this time, on January 4th, 5th, and 8th, with this match set to headline Night 1 at the Tokyo Dome. Night 1 and 2 will take place in the Dome, whilst the final night will be held at the Yokohama Arena. And quickly, just before we continue, make sure you drop a like on the video as it helps me out a lot, and make sure you subscribe with notifications turned on so you don't miss any upcoming wrestling content as we head, hopefully, towards 100,000 subscribers. But now, let's press play on the video. This past Friday night, AEW held a live episode of Rampage which saw Bryan Danielson take on Anthony Bowens, who is of course one half of the Acclaimed tag team. Bowens would be joined at ringside by his tag partner Max Caster, making their way to the ring with Caster cutting one of his trademark freestyle raps. During the rap, Caster would make reference to Bryan's father-in-law John Laurinaitis and would say, "I'm gonna put you in poverty because I end careers quicker than your father-in-law." This line follows the recent 18 WWE releases and a leaked email from Laurinaitis informing talent of the news. Danielson is of course married to Brie Bella, whose mother is married to Laurinaitis. Caster's remarks would instantly spread across social media, with him still having a knack of getting people talking whilst walking the line of controversy. Unfortunately for the Acclaimed, the line didn't affect Bryan too much as he was able to get the victory. Next up, we have an update regarding the Samuray Del Sol tweet from this past week, which referenced the late Brodie Lee. For those that missed it, the former Kalisto would dedicate his AEW debut this past week to Brodie in a tweet following the match. Unfortunately, Del Sol would misspell Brodie's real name of John, which saw him receive backlash from fans, AEW star Chris Jericho, and even Brodie's wife Amanda. As we speculated in another news video the other day, the true reason for the response from Amanda and Jericho were indeed not for the misspelling of John's name, but it was in fact for something else. In an update from the Wrestling Observer, as a result of the tweet, Amanda was said to be, quote, very upset, which caused Jericho to make the initial reply, calling Del Sol out for the misspelling, with many more people in AEW bothered by the initial tweet. The feeling from Brodie's wife is that she was mad because Samurai wasn't Brodie's friend and that he was simply name-dropping him, with the report also noting that Huber's family haven't heard a word from Del Sol during the past few years. As we mentioned in the video, this was kind of assumed by the tweet from Amanda, listing the reasons for why Miro misspelling Brodie's name was different, including that he has been there to support the family since their loss, which suggested that the former Kalisto had not. Going by this report, it seems the feeling is that Samurai was simply trying to get himself over by dropping Brodie's name despite not even being close to him, whilst claiming that he had prayed and spoken to him before his own AEW debut this past Wednesday in a tag match where he teamed with Aerostar against FTR. And finally, following last night's UFC 268 event, controversial fighter Colby Covington would address a potential future in professional wrestling. In his post-fight interview, Covington would tease a possible move to WWE, whilst also taking a shot at American Top Team, whose fighters have been appearing in All Elite Wrestling as of late. Following his loss to Kamaru Usman in the main event of the show, Colby would have some harsh words for his former training mates and would say, "I don't pay any attention to what those losers do. I'm focused on putting on the biggest and best fights in the world. You might see me in WWE one day, but I don't think you're gonna see me in a second tier promotion like AEW." Last year, Covington would have a public feud with his former team, which involved a ton of trash talking, with the UFC star choosing to train with MMA masters instead. Ironically, Colby does indeed have a past in pro wrestling, appearing alongside American Top Team and Dan Lambert in Impact Wrestling during the build to Bound for Glory 2017. He would also work one match on a small WrestlePro show, winning in quick fashion. Last night, he would use Kurt Angle's famous entrance music during his walkout, and has done so once in the past before, and is clearly a pro wrestling fan. Colby is very much known as a pro wrestling character inside the MMA world, having ramped up his persona to 100 over recent years as he saw the benefits of drawing a larger audience by being outspoken and causing a stir, and many see him as a traditional heel. This is actually funny timing, as I've been working on a video recently of 10 MMA fighters who are perfect for pro wrestling, and Colby is very close to the top of that list, so be sure to keep an eye out for that one. But do you think Colby Covington should join pro wrestling in the future? Let me know in the comments down below. And before you go, why not check out my video where I discuss 10 wrestlers that would be perfect members of the Elite.